Now let's take a look at a couple of other features of the image tag. First of all, you probably have noticed, because you've seen it on some websites, that you can use an image for a link. I'm going to create a link around this one, and I'm going to use a page on my website that we'll be referring to a little bit later in this lesson. And we'll go ahead and put the end A tag over here and save. This is, of course, the same page we were using in our last lesson, and we will reload. Now, notice that in making a link, it went and put a blue border around the image. Some browsers do that and some don't. It is common though, and so there's a attribute you can put in the image to make it not do that. You can say border equals 0. We'll save that. Most of the time you're not going to want the blue border, and there we go. The border is now gone. Of course, you could, if you wanted, you could say border equals 5 and make it really big. But most of the time, I think you're going to want it to be 0. Now, that's the border equals 0. Another thing you might notice is occasionally you'll be looking at websites, and this browser doesn't do it, and most of the modern browsers don't, but some of the older ones did, and there may still be some current browsers that do. You'll see a little, what I call a little nick. It would be a little underline character, and it would be in the color of the links, it would be blue. And that happens because of this extra space. You'll notice that there's space between here and here. There's some number of spaces, and there's a new line, and there's also space between here and here. Those spaces are part of the link technically, and if the browser doesn't do something internally to not count them, then they should be part of the link, and they should properly be underlined because, of course, the border equals 0 only applies to the image. So what I do is when I'm making a link with an image, I make sure that the closing A and the opening tag of the A are right up against the image. And sometimes if it makes it wrap too much, I'll just go ahead and I'll do that. I'll make the space inside the A tag. Space between the end bracket and the last attribute is okay in every browser that I've ever seen. Some of the older browsers would not allow a space there between the opening bracket and the first part of the tag, but I've never seen this actually create a problem, and it does validate. So you'll often see in people's code something like this. I do it quite a bit, where the closing bracket of one tag is right up against the opening bracket of the next, and this eliminates that space so that you don't end up with little nicks on your images when you're using them as links. So there we are. And now we have a proper link, and if I go ahead and turn on the status bar, you can see that it shows up down there, our link. And we'll go ahead and we'll go over to that page in a minute.